Hi pencil coders. Today we're going to look at functions and we'll see how they make your programs both easier to write and read. So to start off, let's look at this program and see what it does. So we're setting the speed of the turtle, the pen color, we're jumping to a location, and we're doing a for loop. This particular for loop is going to draw a spiral. Then we jump to another location and we draw another spiral. Notice that this code is the exact same code block as this for loop. Then we jump to another location and we do a few more movements which we'll draw on the screen as well. So let's just see what this does first. So that's the first for loop there, making the spiral. Now the second for loop, and then, so it made a smiley face. So this is a really cool program. However, it's not obvious from the code what's happening. And then we also have this problem, say that we want to adjust these eyes. Maybe they're a little big. Let's say we make it a little smaller on the first for loop. But what we forgot to do is update the second for loop. Because it's in two places, we have to remember anytime we want to make a change to the eyes that we have to update both of them, and they're in different places of the code. So that's not ideal. So what can we do to make this a little better? If we go to the operators section, you'll see these two code blocks. And this is the code block to define a function, and this is the code block to call a function. So when we define a function, there are three parts. First is the name. We'll call this draw spiral. The second thing of a function is the parameter list. This is a comma-separated list of variables that we will use inside the function. So for this, a good one would be number of sides that our spiral will have. And then the third thing that a function has is the body, and that's what's going to go inside of it right here. So we can just take this whole for loop and put it in there. But instead of going 1 to 20 every time, we're going to go from 1 to number of sides. So great, now we have this function draw spiral that we can use, and like I mentioned earlier, we can use this block to call it. So we have the setup, we're going to jump. This is where the for loop used to be, so this is where we're going to draw a spiral. And we'll tell it to do 20. We don't need this anymore because this is just a duplicate of what's inside the draw spiral function, so we can call draw spiral again. And again, we can pass in 20. So we're still passing in the number 20 twice. And this is, it's good flexibility because maybe you want them to be different sizes. But they're right next to each other in the code. So it's a little more obvious. You're drawing a spiral of 20 and you're drawing another spiral of size 20. Then let us define another function called draw smile. So this code earlier that we didn't really know what it was doing, we later saw was to draw a smile. Let's select all of these and just drop them right here into the function as well. So now we have another function. These are two separate functions. So draw smile we can call at the end here. So draw smile. And draw smile isn't going to take any parameters, so we're going to leave that empty and we don't have to pass anything in either. So now if we run this program, the first thing that happens is these two functions become defined, and then we start at line 10, we set the speed, we set the pen, we jump, draw a spiral, jump, draw another spiral, jump, draw a smile. And this program reads a lot better than what we had originally. We can reuse the code and draw a spiral by calling the function in multiple places. So using functions really buys us a lot, and it's made this program much nicer. So usually you can break out functions from your code, and it's going to be a big improvement. A general rule of thumb is that you want a function to do one thing. So in this case, we're only having it draw a spiral, or we're only having it draw a smile. And a good way, or a good rule of thumb you can use, is the body of the function shouldn't be more than 10 lines. If it's more than 10 lines, you can make it multiple functions, and maybe one of your functions calls another function, or you can break it up in a series of steps. So usually you can find a way to keep all your functions under 10 lines, but of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. So another thing that I'd like to show you now, because functions are used all the time in mathematics, it can be really great to break out some mathematical functions. So we have a function for a superellipse, which is going to make kind of like a rounded or sometimes a diamond shape on the screen, as you'll see when we draw this program. And then we define another function called draw trippy eye, which is kind of like this dazed or kind of stunned looking eye that we're going to draw. And in that we have a for loop. We pick a random color that we set the pen to, and in here we actually call superellipse within this other function. So we have two levels of functions here. Then we have another function called draw wave, and that takes a list of parameters that's going to draw a sine wave, which is a mathematical function that you'll see. It just kind of looks like a sound wave or something like that. So those are all the functions we're going to use, and then it becomes really simple to write our program that's going to run, because we just set the speed to 50, we draw a trippy eye at one location and then another location, and then we draw a wave for our dazed face smile. So let's see what this looks like. So already you get kind of a weird pupil, kind of like I think of like a frog eye, sort of like the Hypnotoad, if you've ever seen Futurama. And then we draw another mathematical function to be kind of I think of it kind of like the confused emoji or something like that. You kind of have, or this like worried mouth shape. So we're using functions from math and baking them into our PencilCode functions to make some pretty cool effects that you can use, and we can use them over and over. We can draw more than two eyes if we're drawing some kind of alien, and that would be really easy. Just add another function call. So functions are very flexible, and they make your program much easier to write and later read whenever you come back or whenever someone else is looking at your program. In the next lesson, we're going to look at an even more complicated use case of functions, so stay tuned.